Most gardeners give up when they hit heavy clay. It bakes like brick in summer, turns to sludge in rain, and, honestly, just seems impossible to grow in. But there's a forgotten soil revival trick that doesn't rely on store-bought soil conditioners or endless tilling. It was discovered by old-time farmers who had no machines, just patience, organic matter, and a deep understanding of how soil life works. The method blends two forces that clay desperately needs: slow organic decay and oxygenation from below. Together, they transform lifeless, compacted clay into dark, living earth that drains, breathes, and grows anything you plant. The first step is to feed the clay from above without disturbing its structure. Clay becomes hard because its fine particles pack tightly together. When you dig or till aggressively, you break the few air pockets that exist, and the soil seals even tighter when it dries. The solution is to restore life from the top down, not from the bottom up. Start by spreading a 4-inch layer of partially decomposed organic matter directly on the surface. Old leaves, rough compost, or shredded weeds work best. Don't dig it in. Clay needs protection from direct sun and rain impact first. This layer acts as a biological blanket that holds moisture and shelters the microbes that will start doing the real work underneath. Once that layer is down, sprinkle a thin dusting of fine compost or aged manure over it, just enough to introduce microbial life and nitrogen that jump-starts decomposition. Within weeks, earthworms and fungi will begin pulling small particles down into the clay, loosening it from within. This top-feeding method works slowly, but permanently. Each season, that layer thickens into humus, creating a rich transition zone between the hard clay and the root zone above. The secret ingredient that rewires clay's texture is biochar mixed with compost. Amending clay isn't about softening it, it's about changing how it holds water and air. Biochar, when blended with compost, becomes the perfect structural amendment. Biochar's porous surface holds nutrients and water like a sponge, but unlike organic matter, it doesn't decompose. It acts as permanent scaffolding that keeps clay particles separated. The compost part provides microbial fuel to colonize that biochar with life. To apply, just mix 1 part biochar with 2 parts mature compost. Moisten the blend, and let it sit for at least a week. This charging step, allows microbes and nutrients to bond with the biochar's surface. Then, spread about 1 inch of this mixture over the existing mulch layer, and lightly rake it in, not deeper than the first inch of soil. That's enough to let rain and worm movement carry it down slowly. Over time, the charged biochar establishes micro-air channels that prevent compaction and create stable, moisture-holding zones within the clay. This combination alone can really turn sealed ground into a living sponge within a single growing season. Roots and microbes must be invited to work together, not separately. Even with mulch and biochar, clay won't truly change until roots penetrate it. The best way to help that happen is by using living roots as natural tillers. So, plant a temporary cover crop such as daikon radish, clover, or buckwheat directly into the mulched layer. These plants push roots deep into compacted soil, creating tunnels that stay open long after they die. As their roots decay, they leave behind organic carbon channels where oxygen and water can flow freely. If you're starting in spring, broadcast crimson clover at about 2 pounds per 1,000 square feet and just let it grow through early summer. Mow it down once flowering begins, then leave the cut foliage in place as mulch. The decaying roots will release nitrogen slowly, while the mulch above continues feeding soil organisms. For gardeners working in fall, daikon radish works even better. The thick tap roots break up hard clay mechanically, and when they rot in winter they leave deep holes that act as natural aerators. This cycle of grow, cut, and decay builds real structure, something no bagged soil conditioner can replicate. Moisture management really determines whether clay revives or just seals up again. Clay, holds water, but once it gets compacted, it can't release it very easily. So, reviving it actually requires steady, moderate moisture, never flooding it, but also never letting it dry out. During those first couple of months, you want to water lightly but frequently, making sure the mulch and compost layers stay damp but not soggy. The microbial community that's expanding in that layer needs oxygen just as much as it needs moisture, and if you drown it, well, that'll really stall the process. As the season goes on and the organic matter breaks down, the soil will start regulating its own moisture, pretty much naturally. You'll notice that puddles disappear faster after it rains, and your plants stop wilting between waterings. That right there is the sign that structure is coming back. If you dig a small hole, you'll find that the sticky clay has actually started to darken and crumble. That's not magic, it's the biology doing its thing. Once you reach that point, it's time to let nature take over. Just keep the surface covered, keep adding those light layers of mulch each season, and honestly, the improvement becomes permanent. So, clay soil doesn't need to be replaced, it really just needs to be rewired. The reason this trick works so effectively is that, well, it follows soil biology instead of fighting it. Clay isn't actually bad soil, it's mineral-rich and capable of holding immense fertility once it's opened up. The real problem has always been structure. By feeding it from above, inoculating it with biochar and compost, and keeping living roots active, you're not just fixing the texture, you're creating a permanent soil ecosystem. Just 1 year of this method can turn concrete-like clay into workable soil. 2 years, and you get deep, loamy beds that are able to hold moisture through drought and resist erosion in storms. There's no need to dig, haul, or replace anything. You simply layer, feed, and let the soil rebuild itself. It's a process of patience, but once clay revives, it stays alive indefinitely, as long as it remains covered and biologically active. This is the soil revival system that never fails once it starts working. Every garden that's adopted this top-feeding approach reports the same transformation: better drainage, higher earthworm populations, and visibly darker soil within a season. The mulch, compost, and biochar combination wakes up microbial communities that had been dormant for years. The clay stops suffocating and starts breathing again. Plants that once struggled begin to thrive without synthetic fertilizers because nutrients now stay in the soil where they belong. If you're standing over a patch of dead clay, don't dig it up, heal it. Start with a blanket of rough organic matter, add a microbial layer of compost and charged biochar, and just let life move downward naturally. By the time your next planting season arrives, the soil that once broke shovels will crumble in your hand. For more proven soil restoration methods that rebuild fertility the natural way, subscribe to Hydrohaven and share this guide with gardeners who are ready to bring their ground back to life. The simplest layers often make the strongest foundations, especially when nature is allowed to do the heavy lifting.